Hello, Money Multipliers. Welcome back to another episode of the Money Multiplier podcast. I'm your host, Brent Kesler, and we ask ourselves, do our dollars make sense? So as of today, it is a Friday afternoon, so Pops and I are chilling in our leisure gear today. So I got Dad here wanting to podcast with me today. Thanks for joining me.
Wait a minute, wanting to podcast with you? I think you got hog-tied me down and put me in this chair. But all right, well, we'll call it what you say, wanting to podcast with you.
We call him, actually, and it's an ongoing joke in the family right now because, Dad, he's been doing this. He's been teaching this concept since 2012. And so Dad's kind of at a point in his life where, he kind of wants to slow down just a little bit, enjoy his empire that he built. But it's kind of funny because then Dad will go out there, sign himself up for all of these live events and podcasts and different things. So my brothers and I, we call Dad Turbo the Snail because he's trying to slow down, but he's like turbo going 100 miles an hour.
Oh my, telling all of our secrets. Oh, by the way, I didn't tell you about the event I signed up for on the 24th.
Oh my gosh. So, and I am too. I'm happy to be home for a little bit. There's a lot of travel that was going on during the summer months. So a lot of masterminds and live speaking events. And y'all, if you guys want to know where we're at around the country, go to our website, themoneymultiplier.com/resources. Or as I say this, you could just go to our homepage, themoneymultiplier.com, and then on the top there, it's the resources, and then you can see our events calendar. So all of the live and virtual events that we have going on. I know at the time of this recording, we just had our virtual 2-day advanced IBC training that Chris Noggle, myself, and Brent are hosting. And also, y'all, the Nashville Mastermind is also coming up in October of this year. So excited for that as well. But in today's episode, what I wanted to talk about is I really wanted to get into lending, okay? You guys loved that past episode on Dad and myself sitting down and really talking about how we're using the policies for our lending deals. Because, the whole idea with the policies, when people show up at our front door first, they have debt, right? That's where you started.
Yeah, third-party debt.
You had almost $1 million of debt, and by implementing this concept, Dad was able to pay it off in 39 months. And he didn't change anything that he was already doing. You weren't seeing more patients, selling more isogenics.
Yeah, right.
Right? All he changed is where the money was going first. So that's kind of where we help people at first, is we help them get out of that third-party debt, taking back the control, freeing up that monthly cash flow that's going out to these third-party people. And then they come to us because they're like, hey, this has been great. I cleared off all of my debts. Well, now what do? I got all this money that's just sitting in the policies. What do I go do with this money? And, I always tell y'all that I'm never going to tell you how to go make the money, how to go invest the money. But yeah, if you want to have those buddy conversations, we can, and we'll turn you on to the stuff that we're doing over here. And a large portion of what we're doing is private lending. I don't know, just for like my newbies, Dad, just explain real quick what private lending is.
Yeah. Anyway, before we get into that, the one thing you said is that when people come to us, a lot of times they have third-party debt, and we're basically teaching you how to take that debt and to be able to pay it down or pay it off in a much quicker way, quicker way, and also in a way that allows you to continue to build wealth through your own debts and expenses, right? And that's kind of like the tagline that I use. If I meet somebody new for the first time, if I'm sitting on an airplane with them or meeting somebody and they say, well, tell me, what do you do? And I say, well, I help people build, keep, and create wealth through their own debts and expenses that they already have. Mm-hmm. So that is just in a nutshell, just how a lot of our clients come to us, is because they have third-party debt. But not everybody has that. There's a lot of clients that come to us that have no debt whatsoever. They just want to continue to build wealth or build on what they have and keep that money in their family so it doesn't go to other people. So I just want to make it clear that if a person does not have debt, it doesn't mean that this concept is not for you. No, it's just that people are all on all these spectrums. It doesn't matter where you start. Some people are starting, like way down low, like as far as below zero, and some people are already starting with millions of dollars of net worth and assets, right? So the concept works the same for everybody. It just depends on what stage that you get in at and where exactly that you are. So the concept is for everybody, no matter what financial situation that you're in, because at the end of the day, the thing that we're doing is we're teaching people how to keep more of what they make. And let's just face it, all the people that are out there, all of our clients, I mean, the majority of them, you're really, really good at being able to make the money, but most of you, closer to all than most, the majority of you suck at keeping your money.
Yeah.
You can make it, but you suck at keeping it. So that's what we really teach you to do, is how to keep the money that you make. So I just wanted to throw that in there before we get into the deal with the private lending.
Yeah. And actually, as you say that too, y'all go out there also, go look up the Banking Bros, the Cash Compound, Jonah and Jeremiah, they're mentors on the team. And they call it the spend and save method, because the whole idea of why we're utilizing the policies, yes, there's a whole bunch of reasons, it's protected, tax-free wealth. But the biggest one that really intrigues people is that we're able to use uninterrupted compounding interest. So when the money goes into the policy, the whole idea is have the money flow through the policy first, or as Dad always says, it's just adding the one additional step. Have that money go through the policy first, and then take it out to pay your debts, to buy your investments, pay your taxes, whatever it is that you're going to go and spend the money on. Because once I cycled it through the policy, I'm earning the uninterrupted compounding, and I'm able to go and leverage it and go make money elsewhere with it. So that's kind of what we mean by spending and saving at the same time.
Yeah, the way I like to categorize that is I like to say is, how cool would it be if the thing you could do is use, dollars and pay all your debts, all your expenses, and at the same time, all the money you paid out, it never left your family. You still have a dollar amount that's continuing to grow, uninterrupted compound interest, and you can use it at the same time. So what that means is you're able to use your money, but you never interrupt the compounding effect of your money. So you're able to earn uninterrupted compound interest on your money and use that same money to pay debts and expenses. So you're able to use your money multiple times to do different jobs. The same pool of money can do multiple jobs. And again, I know you gave a shout out to Joan and Jeremiah at the Cash Compound at the Banking Bros, but you should give one out to Devin Burr. He goes by, what is this tagline? Mr.
Burr.
Yeah, Mr. Burr, MR_Burr, BRRRR. And if you go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, I don't even know what all those are, right? But if you go there, Devin is an investor. He teaches how to invest in real estate. He lives in Arizona, and he has lots of content. And the thing he shows you is how you can use that money, or actually how he uses the money to buy his real estate deals. And he's going to use the same money over and over and over again in order to get all these other deals, all these other new real estate deals. So he's using the pool of money, or he's using that money in more than one real estate deal. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, how does that make sense? Because if you're going to buy a piece of property and it's going to cost you $100,000, you got to take that $100,000 and you put it into this deal. Well, now that $100,000 is in that deal. Well, yes, the $100,000 is in the deal, but the $100,000 that he used it never left his family. It's still in his banking system, earning uninterrupted compound interest. So he's not only able to use the money in that deal, he still has it over here earning uninterrupted compound interest, which he can use that money in other deals.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, okay, like if you talk about it and think about it, it's like, well, how is that? Again, it's complicated, but it's very simple at the same time. Don't overcomplicate it. And that's what we are here to do. Our team, Devin, Jonah, Chris Noggle, Joseph, I mean, all the people we have teaching this concept, that's what our job, that's what our mission is to teach you and give you and pour into you all the different ways of how this banking concept can work in your own life. And I get it. There's a certain point that you're at right now in your financial life, and that's what you're concerned about is right where you are. But just remember, wherever you are right now is not where you were last week, last month, last year, 5, 10, 20 years ago. And it's not going to be where you're at in a year, 5 years, 10, 20, 30 years from now, because your financial life is constantly changing. It's changing. Right. All through life, we go through changes. We have windfalls and downfalls. We get raises and demotions. We buy things and sell things. So I know you've got tunnel vision and you got to think about where you're at right at this time, but try to expand your vision a little bit, open up your mind a little bit and just think, if I do this, how's it going to affect this next thing and this next thing? And just think outside of the box a little bit. The problem that you will have with this concept and all of our teachings, if you want to follow the normal system, what everybody else does, and follow the traditional ways of investing, of building wealth, if that's you and the thing that you want to do is follow traditions, like what you're for example, the way that your parents are doing it, your grandparents, your friends, your colleagues, and coworkers, you're not going to like us because we are outside of the box thinkers. And what we're doing is we are doing things that the wealthy have been doing in their life for over 200 years. Mm-hmm. The Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Morgans, the Stanleys, the Barclays, right? The concept that we teach is not brand new. It's not on trial. It's not being tested. It's been around for over 200 years. So all we're doing is taking these tools, these principles, we're breaking them down into a very simple, easy to understand 3rd, 4th grade level, and we're giving you that knowledge of how to implement this in your own financial life. As like Hannah said earlier, I'm not going to change your cash flow. We're not going to make you work any harder, take any additional risk, or lose control of your money. It's adding one step in your financial life. Yeah. So if you're traditional in the box thinker, you should probably turn this off right now and go walk the dog or go do something else because you're not going to like our content.
No, that's right. That's right. And I think one thing to comment on too is that all of us are practicing what we're preaching. Everybody on the team, application team, implementation team, the money mentors. I mean, I explain this a lot. Everybody who has started off or who is now teaching this, they were all consumers of this first. I mean, you, Dad, you started your first policy in 2008, found your passion, and then started teaching it in 2012. So everybody is here walking the same path with y'all too. So specifically, what really intrigues people is some of the lending that we're doing through the policies. Because, right, here's what my mama always says, and I say it all the time on the podcast. The whole goal, all right, picture your dollars. Dad, give me that $20 bill right there.
I give it to you. I'm just going to let you hold it for the podcast.
All right, now dinner's on me tonight. The whole idea is take the little green men. So this is your dollar. This is your little green men. And the whole objective is go put the little green men to work to create an army of green men who are out there working for you so that you can take the time freedom back to yourself. And as Mom always says, she'll go in and check on the policies like every quarter. And if she sees that there's more than X amount of money sitting in the policies, she'll say, Brent, you need to go put this money out there and go put it to work. Keep creating more of those passive income streams to ourselves.
More green men, as she calls it.
More green men. So private lending, right? What is private lending? Why we like private lending is essentially it's almost like the concept that we teach, us being our own banker. Well, now lending, it just allows me to be the bank in other people's lives. So people will come to us and they'll say, "Hey, I need some money for a down payment on a house, or I want to go do this investment project. I need some money to go do a rehab on this house," whatever it is. And most of the time, if not all the time, all we're lending on is real estate. And we can kind of get into why we're doing that. But, I'm not going out there and lending money on cars, right? I mean, I can do that if I wanted to, but there's reasons of why we're doing it on real estate and not those other depreciating assets, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you would say as what lending is, private lending?
Yeah, well, again, there could be lots of different ways of private lending that people do, and you probably heard of things like, okay, I'm in first position, I'm in second position, I'm going to lend money for this deal or for this project. There's like lots and lots of ways to do it. Um, I like to just to keep it pretty simple and straightforward, where I am only going to personally loan on collateral that's going to back that loan. Okay. Let me just give you the example. And I use this example, quite often. There was a guy that wanted to buy a $1.5 million house. And again, this was a couple years ago. So again, all right, so like I did this loan, it's paid back and everything. So the house was going to cost 1.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And he really wanted this house. He just really, really wanted this house. And he had $500,000. And he needed to do the deal quick because there was lots of people that were standing in line, wanted to buy it. He didn't have time to go to the bank, get approved, all that stuff. I call it having to go through the proctology exam to get approved for the bank loan, right? He needed to get this deal done quickly. So it really had to be a cash deal for him. He had $500,000, but he needed the $1 million. So I loaned him the $1 million, and I felt very, very good about the loan because I was in first position on the house that he was purchasing for 1.5 that was being appraised for like 1.7.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was in first position, which means nobody is ahead of me, right? I'm in first position on that lien. So I loan $1 million. He comes to the table with 500. He's not going to walk away from $500,000 of equity and not pay that thing or have me foreclose on it. Even if I did foreclose on it, I'm going to foreclose. He owes me $1 million, and the properties, he bought it at 1.5. It's appraised at 1.7. So a deal like that, I'm hoping he doesn't pay and he walks away and I get to foreclose because then I even come out better, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, not really. But I mean, yeah. I mean, if
But it's
that
more
would have
hassle,
happened,
though, right?
yeah. I mean, yeah. So that wouldn't have hurt me at all. So he borrowed the money and he paid interest-only payments to me. Now, in this case, it was 16% interest. That's what he was going to pay. And I'm not going to get into why it was 16%, but it was 16% because he needed the money immediately. I had the money tied up in other deals. And I just told him, I said, look, this is crazy. You're going to pay me 16% interest. But if you really want the house and you want my $1 million, that's what it's going to be. No problem, all good. So that's what he did. So he kept the loan for almost a year because the term was for a year, and then he would refinance it and pay it out. And I think he kept it for actually 11 months. So for every month, he would pay me $13,333 a month, which is really $160,000 a year, 16% on $1 million, right? Divided by 12. So he was making those interest-only payments. And so those dollars were coming in. I was in first position. He wasn't going to walk away from $500,000 worth of collateral and equity. And so that was a very good, safe deal. It was a safe deal for me, for sure. Because, again, he's not going to walk away from that, okay, as far as from that much equity. So how did I do the deal? Well, of course, I put the money in the policy first. So now what I do when the money's in the policy, I go to the policy, I go to the insurance company and say, Mr. Insurance Company, I need to take a policy loan for $1 million. So the insurance company is going to charge me to take the policy loan, 5-6% interest, 7%. I mean, whatever it is, right? So for this deal, I think, okay, with this particular policy at the time, I think it was paying 5.5% interest. Let's just call it 6% interest on the policy loan. So I go to the insurance company. I take a loan from the general fund of the insurance company of $1 million. Now, keep in mind, I never, ever took my $1 million out of the policy. This is huge. So that means that all that money, all right, that whole $1 million is still in the policy, growing and compounding tax-free. And I'm using the money too. How much of the money am I using?
$1 million.
$1 million. I did what with $1 million? I loaned it to the individual at he's paying me 16% interest. So if I was paying 6%, even if I was paying 8% to the insurance company, do I care if I'm paying 8% interest to the insurance company, to their general fund, if I'm getting 16, right? That would be like saying, do I care if I pay $1 if I get back $2? For every $1 I pay out, I get back $2. I would do that all day long, right? So I'm just trying to use this as easy math. But on top of that, not only do we have that, so not only do we have just that equation where I give you $1, you give me $2, that $1 million is continuing to compound and grow that we're not even talking about. Mm-hmm. And remember what happens when I pay interest to the insurance company for the money that I borrow? Mm-hmm. I'm paying it at simple interest. Mm-hmm. That interest is not compounding. It's simple interest that I'm paying. A lot of people don't understand the difference between simple interest that you pay simple interest to somebody or compound interest to somebody. That is huge. It is huge, huge, huge.
Well, and then can I just go deeper into it? A lot of people don't understand. Like you use that visual of you going out to your mailbox and dancing around in your Speedo when you get your premium due notice and your loan interest notice due, because we love paying policy loan interest because we got to understand that this is a mutually owned insurance company. And when you are a policy owner with that mutually held company, when you pay them that loan interest, that creates the profits on their books. Well, who shares in those profits at that insurance company? The policy owners. That's why and how we receive those dividends every year too. But anyways, I don't want to go deep into that right now. Go check out my policy loan interest podcast where I get even deeper into it. But we got to change our mindset about policy loan interest to the insurance company. It's not like we're working against this company, kind of like how banks are. We're really creating this lifelong marriage and relationship with the insurance company.
Yeah, well, not only that, that's a great point, but not only that, you got to remember the policy gets more effective every day. Today's better than yesterday. Tomorrow's better than today. That's not us sitting here telling you. That is in your policy contract. So for all of you, out there that have policies right now, go look at your policy contract. Go look at the breakdown of the policy illustration and look at the numbers of what happens year after year after year. The numbers continue to increase. So every day is better than the day before. So when I go out and I put into a 5-year-old policy, a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old policy, when I pay that premium, I'm able to use more than what I'm putting in. And that number continues to increase and increase and get bigger and bigger and bigger as the years go on. So there's so many things, there's so many little caveats to this that weigh into your favor. I mean, really everything about it, 100% of everything that we do weighs into your favor. Even if you think, well, no, Brent, that doesn't sound right. Because if I go out and I start my very first policy and I pay in the first year, if I put in $10,000, I can't access the whole $10,000. Well, you're right. You can't access dollar for dollar in the first year. So if you're into very short-term thinking, you're not going to like us either. So you might as well turn off go burp the baby or walk the dog, right? So it's not about the short term, it's the long term. But let's just talk about the short term for a minute. Even if you think that it doesn't help you in the short term, which it does, because remember, all of your net worth has to reside somewhere. Your money has to reside somewhere. It's either going to be in the conventional bank of somebody else where you are putting your money now, or it's going to be in your own banking system, i.e., the whole life policy in the mutual company that pays dividends, where you, as the mutual owner, are earning the profits and the dividends and not the stockholders and the shareholders of the conventional bank. But let's just go back to the fact and just keep it simple. Let's just say I put in $10,000 into a policy today, and I could only access $6,000 of that money. Well, all of the money is yours. It's your $10,000 that you put in. You just can't borrow dollar for dollar in the very first day. But it's the same thing at your conventional bank if you think about it. If you go open up a conventional bank account and you put in $10,000, are you going to go back the next day and withdraw $10,000? No. You're not going to do that because you would close out the account. But in the policy, you always have more money, even from day one, than what you put in. Because guess what we have that's very important that we hardly ever talk about, and we should probably talk about it more.
Yeah, death benefit.
The death benefit. So let's just hypothetically say that you went out and you put in $10,000 into this policy, and you took out, I'm trying to keep the math simple, and you are using $6,000 of that money. And now all of a sudden you die, pass, or graduate in that first year. And you're thinking, oh man, that wasn't a very good deal. I put in 10, I was only able to use 6, and I died. You're thinking, that wasn't good because I put in 10 and I can only use 6, so I lost 4. Well, did you lose 4? Absolutely not. You didn't lose 4 because associated with that policy is this thing called a death benefit. And that death benefit is going to be multiple times more than the $10,000 of premium that you put into it. And who's going to get all of that money tax-free?
Yeah, your family.
It's going to go to your family, your beneficiaries, whoever you choose to list as your beneficiary. It could be a charity. It could whoever you want. All that money goes to them tax-free. Now, maybe you personally didn't gain, you yourself, because you died, passed, or graduated, so you're gone, right? But it's not really truly about you, is it? I mean, yeah, I know there's a couple of you that have no family members and no friends, and you could care less about anyone but yourself, and you have nobody on this earth, okay, as far as other than yourself.
Zach Kesler?
And no,
I just
her
kidding.
brother. And I get it. You're thinking, well, but 99.9% of you truly care about somebody else in your life. And it doesn't even have to be a family member, right? Because I know there's a lot of our family members that were like, they probably shouldn't even be our family members. But whoever it is, there's something, somebody, some organization that you care about. And when you leave this earth, or just like wherever it is that you believe that you go, when you die, pass, or graduate, somebody else is going to get a benefit because of the financial decision that you made. So in this case, they're getting that death benefit paid to them tax-free. Yep. So just to recap real quick, you put in $10,000 in the policy. You're able to use $6,000. You die, pass, or graduate. Let's just say, hypothetically, your death benefit is $100,000. Well, you put in 10, so now your death benefit is at 100. So what happens when you die? The $100,000 death benefit pays out, but they've already given you $6,000 of it. They gave that to you while you were living. So now what happens is the $100,000 pays off the $6,000 policy loan, and now there's $94,000 remaining that's going to go to that individual or that organization because of what you did and your choice that you made. And those numbers get bigger, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Year 2, 3, 4, 10, 20, 30. the cash value, the loan availability, the death benefit, it just continues to get bigger.
So, Dad, can you talk to us currently about how many loans that you have out?
Yeah. Of course, right to the thing I just talked about, I gave the example of, how I do the loans. And anyway, just like the loan I discussed, I made sure I was in first position on that loan, right? Which means first position, which means that there's nobody ahead of you. So you're always going to be the first one to get paid. There are loans out there that if you choose to take another position, say second position, then those are out there as well. I just personally don't like those because then I have to be behind whoever's in first position. So there are times where people will offer me a loan to be in second position. And since I don't like being in second position, and if I'm interested in the deal, I'll say, well, how about if I buy out the first position? So I'll buy out that first position, and then that puts me in first position.
Hey, talk to us real quick. Why are you not taking second position?
Because if you're not first, you're last.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a T-shirt that says that, right? If you're not first, you're last. But
or your experiences of you taking second position.
Yeah, in the past, being in like second position, it's a lot harder to collect if something goes bad with the deal, right? If the deal goes sour, it's hard to collect. You got to get the first position person paid first before the second position is even thought about. So it's just not worth the time and the energy, even though people will say, oh, I'll give you second position and I'll give you a higher interest rate. Well, that's not always, the best thing to do, even though it sounds good. But remember, as far as my famous saying that I like to say a lot,
if you're not first, you're last.
If you're not first, you're last. But what's the other one? The pigs?
Oh, pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered.
So a lot of times people get these high returns, or people are talking about, I'll give you a high return. And you're like, oh, wow, that sounds really good. But I'm not trying to be a hog. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. I don't want to get slaughtered. So I'm comfortable enough being in a lower category, as far as being in a category where I'm not getting as much interest, on the money that's out there, but I want more of the safety and security to make sure that I get paid back. Also, too, a lot of people will ask you to borrow money, and they want to pay you the principal and interest at the end of the deal. So let's just say you wanted to borrow X amount of dollars. Let's just say you wanted to borrow like $100,000, and you were going to get paid 10% interest on the loan, right? So 10% on $100,000 is $10,000 a year, which it is going to equal about $833 a month. I want to be paid $833 a month. I don't want to be paid $110,000 at the end of the first year. Yeah. I want the cash flow coming in. I want them to be paying the money each and every month, so they know it's in their mind, it's programmed that they're paying each and every month. So there's some people that say, I'll pay you at the end, or I'll make quarterly payments, right? So for example, on that $10,000 interest on a $100,000 loan, so that's going to be $10,000 quarterly, $2,500 a quarter. I don't like those either. I'll do those, but I don't like them, and I definitely don't like getting paid at the end all the interest. And I'm not a fan of the quarterly, and I like that monthly cash flow coming in, because really what's important is when that monthly cash flow is coming in, you can take that monthly cash flow that comes in and you can send it out into other loans, or you can take that monthly cash flow and pay just like your own debts or expenses. Or in my case, if I borrow money from the general fund of the insurance company and I'm borrowing their money, as that interest is coming back to me, I'm paying down the policy loan.
Yep, putting it back into the policy.
Yeah.
Now, you have more thoughts?
Oh, I got lots of thoughts. But
how many loans you have out currently?
Yeah.
And when did you start loaning?
Yeah. I probably did my first loan back right. It was after I got my first policy, but it was before I started teaching the infinite banking concept. And I remember specifically what that loan was for. There was a guy that wanted to borrow money for a car. He needed this car as a status symbol for his job that he had or whatnot. And the car, okay, just said he was buying. Okay, the loan was going to be for $60,000. And a colleague of mine brought this loan to me and he says, "Hey, Brent, do you want to loan Scott $60,000 for the car? And it's going to be 12% interest that you're going to get." And I was nervous about that. I was like, "Really, 60,000? I'm going to do a loan?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." And so then my colleague said, "Well, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it."
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of waked me up a little bit, right? It kind of woke me up a little bit. And I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. You're going to do it. I want a piece of this too. You know, I don't want you to do it all and get all the interest profits and make money on that." So I said to him, I said, "How about if we do this one together, where you do half and I did half?" And that's exactly what we did. And he paid off for 5 years. It was 12% interest. And he paid monthly payments, principal and interest. So there's some loans that you'll do where it'll be interest only, and there'll be some loans that you do that'll be principal and interest. And in this case, it was principal and interest. We set it up on a 5-year term, and he paid it off 5 years. I mean, he went the full term of the loan. So that was my very first one that I did to kind of get my feet wet. And then I did another one, you know, on my own. And then there was an opportunity that somebody brought me and said, "Hey, Brent, I got a person that wants to borrow money. I've never done it before. Is this a good deal that you think I should do?" So I looked at the deal and I said to her, actually her name was Sandra, and I said, "Okay, Sandra, I think it's a good deal to do," but however, Sandra was a little nervous, kind of like I was in the very first loan about doing it. And she says, "Yeah, okay, I get it. You said you thought it was good. It would be a safe deal, but I'm still a little nervous about doing it." So then I had the opportunity that said, "Sandra, if you don't want to do it, I'll do it. Or better yet, how about if we do it together? So we each equally have skin in the game in it. And if I'm willing to do it, at least it shows you that I'm willing to do it, Sandra. So if I'm going to lose, you're going to lose. And if you're going to lose, I'm going to lose." So that's what we did. We went in and we did that together. So I got to almost play the same role as my other colleague that kind of played with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now ever since then, I don't know if I've done any loans together since those two or not. I can't remember, honestly. So I've done them now all on my own. And just before we come on here, because I knew we were going to talk about this, I went through my current portfolio of the loans that I currently have as of today right now. And the total amount of those loans, I have 24 loans. I have 24 loans. Now, it's not necessarily to 24 individuals. Like I have 10 different loans to this one individual. I have I have 4 loans out to another individual. I have 2 loans out to this individual, right? So it's not necessarily 24 people, but each loan is separate. So I have 24 loans out, and if you total all of the dollars that I loaned, it comes to $9,767,000. That's what I have loaned out. And each of those loans are backed by some kind of collateral.
Most of the time, it's real estate.
Most of the time, it's real estate. But I gave you the example of the car one earlier.
And there was the gold and silver one.
Yeah, there was a gold and silver one time that I had collateral of gold and silver. Now, keep in mind, the collateral on the gold and silver, even though he tells me, he says, "Hey, I got gold and silver, and I'll back the collateral with gold and silver." Keep in mind, I keep that gold and silver in a
In your
location that
possession.
I can access. Yeah, that I'm able to access. He doesn't say I have it and he keeps it at his house in his safe. No, no, no. That wouldn't work. I have it. I have the access of all the gold and the silver as the collateral. And when he pays back the loan, I turn back over the gold and silver to him, right? So, because if the loan goes bad, anyway, like if the loan goes bad, how easy do you think it's going to be for me to chase him down to get the gold and silver he has in his house?
Yeah.
Not easy at all, and I'm not going to go do that or send Big Bubba down there to collect it for me, right? So no. So the collateral is secured by some kind of equity, and I normally will not loan money above and beyond what the equity is, and normally I want to only loan up to 75, maybe 80% of the value of that collateral. So if I'm going to loan somebody 100, or if somebody has like a $100,000 true piece of collateral to put up to secure the loan, I'll loan them $75,000 to $80,000 on that collateral.
Yeah.
Or in the case that I said about the guy that bought the house was worth 1.5 million, or the house he bought was 1.5, appraised at 1.7. He needed $1 million, and he was coming to the table
With
with
500.
stuff. So yeah. So, but yeah, as of today, 24 total loans out, totaling that just total. Well, here I gave you a number that was wrong. All right, the total is $9,366,000 is the loan amount, and the terms are all different. Most of those loans are interest only. There are some where people will pay principal and interest, and the ones that are interest only, I will normally only go for a 2-year term. So, for example, this loan that I'm looking at right here, it's a $500,000 loan. The interest that they're paying is 16%. And the loan was started on April 17th of last year, and it's like going to go. Okay, so April 17th of 2023, and it's going to expire. I say expire, meaning they have to pay the principal balance back by the end of April of 2025. So 24 months. So all the loans that I do that way, I usually do them for 1, 2, or 3 years. So 2 years is kind of the sweet spot, but I do a lot at 1 year. 3 years I'm not crazy about. But I also reserve the right to, if they still want to continue to have the loan, they can continue to have the loan, but we may just need to adjust the interest rate. So because of the way that rates fluctuate, I never like to go more than 2 years, really, before we can come in and do a rate adjustment. I will go 3, but usually 2 is the key. And the terms is totally up to you. You decide what the terms are going to be. I can tell you that I have not loaned anything out, and again, here we're talking right now in August of 2024, I have not loaned anything out in the last year, or even maybe a little more than a year, for anything less than 14%. And most of them, honestly, are 15 and 16, and there's a couple 18s. Like I had a guy send me an email, and I went through this whole thing with him. I said, and anyway, he said he's got he has some projects that he needs to borrow money on. And I said, I got one particular borrower that will borrow as much as I want to give him, basically, and he'll pay me 16% every month. He'll pay me 16%, right? And which is, all right, so the interest is like annualized, but he's paying the monthly interest payments. So I said, if you got something that works better than that, because I've already built a relationship with this person, and I have 10, I have a total of 10 loans with him,
Yep.
right? All backed by good, secure collateral and real estate. And you happen to know this person. You actually have some of your money with this person backed with real estate. And we know other people that have money. He's a real estate developer, does a lot of developing into real estate and stuff. So I said, well, that's what I'm getting now, and I have the relationship with him. So if you got something else, I'll be glad to take a look at it. But the terms probably need to be better, if not very similar. So he sends me an email back, and he says, hey, I got a deal for you. It can secure with first position. It can pay out quarterly interest, which I'm not crazy about quarterly interest. I'll do it. And he says, and then in the email, they say, we're going to give you 12%. And I'm like, dude, I just told you that I'm not going to do anything. I mean, right, I can go to him all day long and get 16. Why in the hell would I go to you and get 12? I don't even know you.
Yeah.
You know, I know him. You know, why would I do that? I don't even loan my children money at 12%. Why am I gonna loan you money at 12%? Don't take it personally. It's just business. So I kind of got a little bit nasty with him on the email, and I'm like, well, how did we miscommunicate on the communication here? Somehow we went totally wrong. It seemed like you were watching CNN and I was watching Fox, right? Like two totally different bandwidths here. So we got off somehow or whatnot. So I was a little crappy, and I was polite crappy in the email. But I mean, no, I'm not going to loan you money at 12%.
Yeah, because you have your other deals.
Yeah. Now maybe that's okay, but now like in the future, yes, it could be a possibility if interest rates start come tumbling down. But right now, in today's environment, in August of 2024, I'm not interested in loaning you money at 12%. I'm just not interested in it because that's not what my market rate is doing. And I say my market rate, the people that are around me that I can lend money to for projects. They know the terms of my deals and the interest rate if you're wanting to borrow money now. It could change in 6 months. It could change in a year, but he's wanting the money in 30 days. And so, it's a no-go.
Yeah. Well, because like even for myself, right? You have loans out to me, right? I just purchased that new condo in Daytona Beach, and the purchase price of it was close to $1 million.
Yeah, like $955 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't have the full $1 million. I had enough for the down payments, but hey, came to the banker dad, and I said, hey, banker dad, I need some money. Will you loan me this money? And just like how dad does it with all of his other people, you know, I had to come in with some skin in the game. Dad charges me 14% interest, and then I pay him my monthly mortgage payments every single month. And it's just kind of different way of thinking because we've talked about this before. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're charging your kids 14%. You're a terrible father, right? Yeah. And they just don't get it, right?
And then when they say that, I say, well, you loan my kids the money then.
True. But like, I'm just going to put him on blast real quick. And sorry I'm picking on Zach in this episode. But my younger brother, right? Zach is still learning the money game. You know, yes, he's only 23 years old. He's a very successful pilot, making the money that he is right now at his age. But even Zach doesn't understand the control of these transactions. Because why I would go to banker dad as a lender versus like a commercial bank is, yeah, I could probably go down to a bank and get a cheaper rate. Let's call it maybe like 8 or 9%, because given I'm young, you know, I don't have a long credit history and different things. So the banker's going to make me jump through more hoops. But I come to the family banking system because if something comes up in my life, dad would be more forgiving. Hey, I'm going to give you a break for a few months on these payments. The banker doesn't care what's going on in my life. But then at the end of it all, that money stays within the family so that then at the time of dad and mom's graduation date, aka the death date, all of that money is just going to get passed down to the children anyways. My brother still doesn't understand that. He actually went out. He's got this new big Denali truck. It's all swooped out. It's all lifted, the lift kit and everything.
It's basically an $86,000 Denali pickup truck with the big tires.
Because he's a Florida boy now. He likes his cowboy hat and his boots and his chains and everything, right? But Zach went down to the bank to get a loan because he says, well, Dad, I just don't want to pay you the 14%. I'd rather go down to the bank and get a loan for 7%. I mean, and it's his own right to do what he wants, but he's just not understanding that, hey, as me coming in as a private lender, I'm not going to make you jump through all of those hoops that the banker is going to make you jump through. Yeah. And I'll be more forgiving. Actually, my car that I sold, that Buick, I sold it to a close girlfriend. She now lives, she moved back home to Texas. But, she couldn't pay for that car right up front. I actually did some seller financing with her. Well, there was 1 month where she says, hey, I'm just a little low this month. Can I pay you double next month? I said, sure. You can pay me double next month.
And so did she?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And she did, yeah. I didn't tell you that story. I knew you were going to ask me questions.
Yeah. But yeah, man, you got to treat your kids as a business. We were having a conversation last night with a couple of the people from the home office over dinner.
Yep.
And the one guy said, he said, yeah, I lent my kids money for their down payment on their house, but for some reason they're forgetting to pay that back to us, right? And I just told the guy, I said, his name was Larry. I said, Larry, you created that problem.
Yeah.
I said, that was you that created that because you don't want to cause conflict with your family by going and asking that, hey, you loaned them $25,000 or whatever it was for the down payment. They're expected to pay you back. You were helping them out, and now they're not paying you back. And now your wife and you are arguing about it because you're like, yeah, it's an uncomfortable conversation, but I really, because I really need the money. I want the money to be paid back. It just causes all kind of problems. So I just told Larry, I said, if and so Hannah was sitting at the table last night, and I said, so all of my kids know that if they borrow money from our family bank and they don't pay it back, I will foreclose on their ass. Just like a conventional bank will foreclose on you, I will foreclose on you too, right? And that's about being in first position. Even on the lending for the condo, for example, that we did, I am first position. That lien is filed with the county, the city, it's filed. And if for some reason Hannah doesn't pay it, or God forbid something could happen, who knows? There could be some person, some boyfriend that comes in her life and brainwashes her and says, oh, well, you own the condo and everything. Well, screw your dad. We're not going to pay him back. And then Hannah goes to that side of the fence. And I'm like, no. I'm not going to lose control of that loan because of somebody else, came in and didn't think that I should be paid, right? So there's a lot of reasons that I do it, but you got to be tough with it. It's not being tough with your kids. It's just business.
Yeah.
Treat your family, when you loan money to the family, treat them the same way a bank would. And if you're not going to get it paid back, or if you're going to let it go, then just consider it a gift. Then give them money. Yeah, every now and then I'll give, my kids money. I went out last week and, we bought like $300 worth of stuff to go lobstering into the Keys and to go fishing. And I paid for that for Sean and Zach. I paid the bill, $300. Well, so it was my contribution to the trip. They're going down. They rented the Airbnb. They're renting the boat. And they were both like, no, Dad, you don't have to pay for it. Well, no, I want to pay for it, but it's not a loan. It's a gift. I'm like, I'm going, I'm participating, I'm gifting this part, or however you want to look at it. So there's difference between loans and gifts. And okay, so the last thing I want to go on this topic is an important factor of this is what Hannah kind of started to talk about a couple minutes ago, is if I loan money to the children and the children pay us back with interest the same way they would pay a bank back, a couple things are happening there. Number one,
you take the money from your policies to give to me. You start there. Keep going.
Yep. I borrow from the general fund of the insurance company from the policy to make you the loan. Mm-hmm. But it is increasing our lifestyle. It's increasing my lifestyle and your mom's lifestyle because you're paying us back with interest. So every month I have this interest money coming in because you're a part of the loan portfolio. So my lifestyle and her lifestyle, okay, gets to increase. Mine and hers, meaning my wife's lifestyle, gets to increase while we're living. And like you said, eventually we are going to die, pass, or graduate. It's not an if, it's a when. We just don't know when that expiration date is. And if everything works the way that it's supposed to work, Mom and I are supposed to pass before you pass and your brothers pass, right? So who's going to get the windfall of all of that money?
Kids.
It's going to go to you. So the money is staying within the family. The money is never leaving the family. It stays in the family. When you borrow from a third party, bank, like the Bank of Florida, the Bank of Texas, Wells Fargo, Chase Bank, whose pockets are you lining? You're lining the profit holders and the shareholders of the conventional banks because that money is gone. It's left your family forever. The money is gone, gone, gone. In this system, the money stays in the family. There's no money being leaked out to other people.
Yep. And then on top of that, let me just say it this way too, and we don't have to get deep into this. Well, number one, what I want to talk about, a question I sometimes get is, Hannah, if I go take this money and I go give it to these borrowers and they pay me back, that interest that I'm earning, do I pay tax on it? Yes, it's taxed as ordinary income. Anything you're doing outside the policies, that's going to be taxed as ordinary income. And then that's where, different tax strategies and different things come into play. But go talk to your CPA or we can have those buddy conversations.
Yeah, let's be clear on that. Yes, so that money would be taxed. Your loan interest that you're receiving, it would be taxed. However, Hannah gets a tax deduction, right? Because she is paying interest, just like you would get an interest if you paid on a tax deduction if you paid interest on your mortgage. But let's be totally clear. Hannah and I are not CPAs. We don't give financial tax advice, but I'm sure you're probably going to have your tax professionals going to tell you the same thing. The money that comes in as far as interest income is taxable income. The money that you pay premium into the policy is after tax dollars. What is not taxable is the internal growth of your policy. Once that money is in the policy, the internal growth is growing tax-free.
Yes.
And the way that you're using the policy is you're taking a policy loan, not a withdrawal. Key word is loan. And loans, as you know, are never taxable because you've never paid tax on a loan. The only way a loan would ever be taxable is if you flipped it into a withdrawal, right? If you said, I no longer want it to be a loan, I want to change it to a withdrawal, then that could be a taxable event that you're triggering. But again, that's your CPA, your tax advisor, your tax professional, and I'm sure they'll tell you the same thing.
Now, then let's talk about this because so how Dad has it set up is so if you and Mom were to live to age 65, at that time,
I hope I live to 65.
Yeah, I hope you live
60.
past that. but based on the policies that we currently have, that you and Mom have, if y'all were to live till age 65, that would be 32 or 36 million.
Yeah, the death benefit number is always changing because we're always adding more policies too to our family banking, right? We're always adding additional policies, but the way that we had it calculated, and I haven't done this calculation in a couple years probably. It's probably a good one that I should go back and do. But if both of us would pass, I can't remember if it was age 85 or 75, but let's assume it's age 85. Based on just what we had in place at that time when we were calculating the numbers, the death benefit and all of the policies that we own and control would be $32 million.
Okay.
So what that means is the kids would get, or our beneficiaries would get $32 million.
Yes, but let's talk about this. How we have it set up right now. So I have two other siblings, so there's three of us. Let's say that I pay you back $2 million
in interest.
over the course of
a lifetime.
the lifetime. let's say Sean pays you back $1 million and Zach pays you back $500,000, and this is all interest only.
Interest.
So what's going to happen is that mom and dad are going to take that $32 million of the death benefit, pay Hannah $2 million, Sean $1 million, Zach $500,000, and then whatever remaining death benefit pool of money that's left over, then that's going to get separated out 3
divided by
ways.
3.
Yes.
So in other words, and since Hannah helped improve the lifestyle of me and her mom by paying $2 million, the first $2 million goes to her. Sean did $1 million. The next $1 million goes to him, and then Zach was the low guy, and he did $500,000. $500 goes to him, and then it's all divided equally. So what does that really mean? That means that all the interest that the children pay us is actually going to go back to them, like individually.
And it's tax-free because that death benefit gets paid out lump sum tax-free.
The death benefit is tax-free. The death benefit is tax-free. However, the $2 million, the $1 million, and the $500,000 would go to them. Would be well.
No, it would technically be tax-free.
You
got to do their tax.
There's a couple different. Yeah, well, it depends. All right, let's not give you a definite on that. But remember, the $2 million in interest that was paid by Hannah, she was able to deduct that as an interest deduction, as an interest expense. I see what you're saying. And yeah, I think you're part right, and you might be all right. I got to think about that a little bit more. But the whole idea is the death benefit itself.
Yeah.
The death benefit itself is tax-free to the children.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, and then what I think I want to do too is I think I might want to do like even like a whole part 2 recording with you. I know we're not going to see each other for like a month, but I really want to get into, okay, because like literally today, I don't know who told me this, but somebody says, hey, if you have the money, that those opportunities are going to start flowing into you. I think it was maybe you that told me that, but I've just even been seeing that in my own life where people will reach out to me. This morning, I got a text message. Hey, Hannah, I'm looking at buying this piece of land. I need $40,000. So what I kind of want to walk through in our next episode is when you get those types of people that reach out and ask you, what are the questions that you're asking back to them? What are you making sure that you're getting your ducks in a row and everything answered before you say, yes, this is a deal that I want to do? And my last resource before Dad and I have to run on y'all here today is that a lot of people ask us too, how are you finding these people? Go out there and go to privatemoneyclub.com. So Private Money Club is a great place to go and find people. It's like a match.com between borrowers and lenders. Chris Noggle really runs that site. And then there's other people that we can even turn you on to as well.
Or
so
contact me directly and I'll give you some people too.
Yep.
Just contact me directly, Brent at themoneymultiplier.com.
Brent at themoneymultiplier.com. And then myself, podcast at themoneymultiplier.com if you got questions for me. And Dad, I just really appreciate you for being on. So thank you.
All right, guys. Until next time, thank you. Bye-bye.
See everybody then.